So if you guys remember, so I heard you guys wanted some reprints, but what if you wanted to buy the deck that the reprints were made for? Oh look, 1,000 yen. So what's going on, guys, is Faye the 4th here. So Ahmed004 will not be covering this video. So instead it will be me, because this deck turns him on a bit too much, so he decided to not comment about this video. So it's Bavsargra. So we have not covered Bavsargra on this. We have not covered Bavsargra on this channel before, but basically, if you know Ames, you know that he's an absolute stand for Narukami. He loves his Eradicators. So what if they turned his favorite card, Gauntlet Buster Dragon, the card on this playmat right now, and made it into soup? So that's what this deck tries to fulfill. It tries to bring back the olden days of Narukami, and just you very highly aggressive. You neutralize your opponent's board very aggressively and very quickly, and then you push back from there. So that's what Bavsargra attempts to do. And then the new support that she got in set 9 helps her do just that. Yes, helps her do just that by basically making the deck that much more consistent. Anyways, let us get into the deck profile, because it will be a very quick deck profile, because honestly this deck has not changed much since set 7. So we go over the right deck. We are obviously playing Ahinza, because you have to play Namorka, the Great One. Namorka's skill is that when he's ridden upon by Ahinza, you Soul Blast 1, you search your deck for up to 1 shield or up to 1 sword, and you reveal it and you add to your hand. So of course, because this is the actual Bavsargra deck, we are playing both the sword and the shield. So in the case that you draw one, you can add the other. If you draw both, then of course, sucks to be you. But that is the price that you pay sometimes. But this deck does need soul, so it's good to save on soul. Next is Sealed plays Dragon Haribata, if I'm not wrong. So Haribata's skill is that when placed on Vanguard Circle, you get to choose an arms card from your drop zone and add it back to your hand. So basically, it's basically the same as Blacktail's House Dragon. If you discard an order for your right deck, or you discard an order earlier on, let's say like you discarded your spear, before you were running for your Great One, you can add it back to your hand. So it's just drop zone recursion. It makes your discards very easy. And then we move on to Bavsargra, the main star of the show. So Bavsargra has 2 skills. Her first skill is a auto once per turn. So please do note an auto once per turns that have no cost. You can choose to activate them any time that the timing happens. So it's the same as your equip gauges with your Ancient Dragons in V series, which is that when you would arm. So the whole gimmick of this deck is basically that Bavsargra equips different weapons, and then she gets to and each of those weapons can give different effects. So when you arm her, you put the arm next to her on the Vanguard Circle, so it's like Legion. So you put next to the Vanguard Circle, and then when she's armed, you soul charge 1, and you choose a Great One or lower card from your drop zone, and you may call it to a Rearguard Circle. So basically that's where the 1,000 yen reprint comes from, and it's basically a very good way to fill board. And Bavsargra has a lot of quality Great Ones, Great One or lower cards that overall are just either utility or they're just very strong beaters, as we saw with Trick Moon. Then her second skill is that if she is double equipped, so it means that you have 2 arms on her, which because you have 1 right hand, 1 left hand, so you can only have a maximum of 2 arms. So +2, retire your opponent's entire front row, and then you get +1 crit. So this is basically what we alluded to when we meant that this is the evolution of Gauntlet Buster for this series, is that you just get +1 crit very early on. This no great restriction on this. The only thing is that you must have 2 arms. So you only get to play 1 order a turn. So you have either you wait until turn 4, or you have to use your acceleration tools. And overall, Bavsargra is just very, very quick in terms of how it gets its advantage and how it gets its power, and it prevents your opponent from early rushing in by just retiring the opponent's entire front row. It bypasses resist because it retires the entire front row, but it unfortunately does not bypass Obscure, our Bane of our Existence. And then, as we move on to the rest of our Grade 3s, we of course play 3 other copies of Bavsargra, because this is a Grade 3 deck. There is absolutely no reason why you should not maximize on one of the strongest mechanics of this series, which is Personal Right. Then we have 4 copies of Aditya, which is the Spear, where we got in set 4 as a double rare. And of course, as we said before, 1 sword and 1 shield that we got in the start deck. So Bavsargra, as said before, Personal Right. We'll go over the shield. So the shield requires you to pay a counter blast in order to arm it. And its skill is that once per turn, when your Bavsargra Vanguard will be attacked by yeah, when your Bavsargra Vanguard will be attacked during your opponent's turn, you get to give it 10k shield until you get to give your Vanguard 10k power until the end of that battle. So you choose any battle that your opponent does against your Bavsargra Vanguard, and then you can choose to give your Bavsargra 10k for that battle. So either you only needed to gather 10k for the attack, basically means which means you don't have to discard anything for that guard, or let's say you have to guard 25k or 35k, you can supplement cards from hand and then also use the shield in order to make cost less cards from your hand in order to guard. So this is very useful in turn because this series is getting to the point where attack power level of opponents' units are getting very, very high, but defensive creep is not that fast yet. So the shield is one of the best forms of defensive that Bavsargra has in order to maintain hand, because this deck needs to go quite wide, as Narukami has always had to. He has to fill a lot of rear guards in order to beat back, not just focus purely on gaining advantage by minusing your opponent. Speaking of minusing your opponent, we have to go through the sword which we got in the start deck. So the sword says that in order to arm it, you have to pay 1 soul blast. So you basically will be left. So basically, this means that if you go by the sword and the shield, which is what the start deck wants you to go into, you'll be left and use Bavsargra skill on that turn. You'll be left with 0 soul because you soul charge 1 by Bavsargra skill, and then you also have to soul blast in order to arm this. You soul blast 1 for the grade 1, and then you soul blast 2 for Bavsargra skill. So it empties out your soul, which means that you'll be left at a disadvantage. But its skill is very, very strong. Is that when at the end of the battle that your Bavsargra Vanguard attacked, if your opponent has 4 or less damage, you can put this card into the drop zone and counterblast 2, and then you deal 1 damage to your opponent. So overall, this is very, very strong. You do lose the arm card, but there are many ways to re-arm from the drop zone, as we'll show you later. But mainly it's just there to, if you know that your opponent is going to want to take 1 damage when they are 4 damage, and then you of course attack them 2 crit, they can only take 1 damage that turn. And if you know that, it is actually more worth it to just throw away the sword in order to ping them 1 damage and force them to have to guard both of your other regular attacks rather than just PG 1 and then take the other. So the sword has its utility. Do not discount it just because it's CB2. It's a very heavy cost, but it's worth it when it counts. But of course, we have the best arm that Bavsargra has gotten since its release is Aditya. So Aditya, you have to pay 1 counter blast to arm it, and until the end of that turn, you get to arm 2 cards that turn. So not only does that mean that you get to arm both your spear as well as your shield, which is your left arm armament, which means that you get to double equip on turn 3. That means it also means you get to do 2 spears in 1 turn, because its other skill is that when you arm it, you draw a card. So instantly it nets you back 1 card for when you play the order, which not a lot of orders do, unless even in Zorga, when you play your orders, you don't net back any card. So this nets you back instantly when you play the order, and then you can also spam it because it lets you arm another card that turn. And there are many, many ways in this deck in order to abuse it. So we will be going into that shortly because, then Aditya and then the sword also have the other ability which supplements Bavsargra's crit gain, which is that when your Vanguard attacks, your Vanguard gains 10k. So both of them will increase Bavsargra to 23 on her own without doing anything, just by having the sword or the spear equipped, which is very, very, very strong. Moving on to our great tools. We play 1 Haribatala for the right deck. We play 3 copies of the Desert Gunner Travis. We play 2 copies of the set 9 triple rare. And then we play 3 copies of this card from Festival, the double rare from Festival Collection. So Haribatala we went through already. So we'll go over the new card first. So the new card, he says that when placed on Regal Circle, Soul Blast 1 and discard 1 card from your hand. You search your deck for 1 arms card, reveal it to your opponent at your hand. So any of the 6 arm cards that we've just revealed to you, you can train them out instantaneously, which means that you can basically set up for double armament as soon as possible. And of course that makes that basically quadruples the efficiency of this deck, because you can run any number of copies that you want. But for our case, 6 spears, because basically most of the time you're going to be searching for the spear, because you search for the shield during your or from your right deck. So there's no point in you searching for the sword or the shield. Just search for whatever component that you don't have at that point, and that will usually be the spear. So allow you to double equip on the turn. Basically means your turn 3 lethal as soon as you start turn 3. And its second ability is that act once per turn, counterblast 1, and choose a arms card on your Vanguard Circle and put into your soul to draw a card. So this is technically how you loop the spear, because let's say that you have another spear in your hand or another spear in your drop. You can have the spear that is still on your Vanguard Circle go to soul to draw a card, and then you can just play the spear again for another counterblast, which lets you draw again. So it's just looping your draws, and it just allows this deck to plus so much faster than it used to, because previously its plussing was good and it used to maintain a lot of hand size, but its plussing was a bit slow. Next, we move on to the card that's been stayed in this deck for the longest, which is Travis Scott. So Travis's skill is on Rearguard Circle, act once per turn. If a opponent's Rearguard was retired this turn, you get to counterblast 1, and then you soul charge 1, and then you choose another one of your opponent's Rearguards and retire it. So this is technically a Eugene card, because Eugene is the #1 retire based deck in this series. But this also means that Bavsargra, because her other gimmick is that she does retire the entire front row, if you do retire something, Travis can then double up and also help you retire a back row unit, which gives Bavsargra something that she still does not have at this point, which is back row coverage for retire, which is very, very strong in this meta. If your Brainwash Swirler, your Magnolia, you have your Sacrifice Messiah, all the possible things that you can get rid of, or your Falcate Performer, any possible back row sticky unit that you want to get rid of, you can do it with Travis. It does cost a counterblast though, but it's very worth it, because not only does he get rid of a unit for it, he also gains 10,000 power, which means he's a very strong attacker with the Great Zero that we're going to mention very soon. And speaking of big attackers, we also have the Double Rare from Festival Collection. So he is the simplest card in this deck. For every arm card on your Vanguard Circle, he gains 5k. So he's just a 20k beater when you double arm, and that's the long and short of it. Very, very strong card. Very, very strong numbers. And then we're moving on to the Great Ones, which is the meat and potato of every Bavsargra deck. We have 1 copy of Namorka, 3 copies of Samadhi, 2 copies of Shadia, Blaze Maiden Shadia, and then 4 copies of the Perfect Guard, Spark Rejector Dragon. So Namorka, as we explained from the right deck, is just a very good searcher. He searches for either the shield or the sword, which is very strong because you need to double equip as fast as possible. Next, we'll move on to Shadia. So Shadia is a magazine promo, but it's actually a very cheap magazine promo, so do not need to worry that this deck is very expensive. It's a very, very affordable Bushiroad Monthly magazine promo. And it says, when placed from hand, so you cannot call it from Bavsargra's ability. If you have 2 or more Blaze Maiden units with different names, so Bavsargra is a Blaze Maiden, and she herself is a Blaze Maiden, so automatically as soon as she's placed, so long as you're playing Bavsargra, her ability is active. So Blast 1, search your deck for 1 Trick Moon and put it into your drop zone. So this basically allows you to have to guarantee that you have 1 Trick Moon in your drop. Oh yeah, you also get to search Trick Star from this ability, but that's only for very gimmick builds with Jiva or Maha that include Blaze Maiden, because you don't really play a lot of Blaze Maidens in Jiva and Maha. But overall for Bavsargra, it just basically means that you instantly have a Trick Moon in your drop zone at all times. So in less case, you get Tempered, it gets Tempest, it gets Bot Deck from Kodo Jet, you can instantly get it back as it did in the anime. So Shadia is just a very, very strong utility tool for this deck, and it basically prevents you from bricking and just not having as strong numbers as you should. Speaking of strong numbers, we have the best card Bavsargra has gotten since set 4, which is Sealed Blaze Dragon Samadhi. So Samadhi's 2 very simple skills, but very, very strong skills, is that continuous on Rearguard Circle. If you are double arm equipped, he gains plus 5k. So it's just a 13k beater. Usually it's actually used more for a beater than a booster, because we have very strong boosters in this deck. So he makes very strong 38k columns, which is a very, very hard number for your opponent to guard. And overall, he's just a very good solo attacker. But his second ability is just absolutely stupid. On act on Rearguard Circle, you may retire this unit on the Rearguard Circle to choose an arm from your drop zone and immediately equip it to your Vanguard. And until the end of this turn, you can no longer arm at all. So you cannot superior arm and you cannot arm from hand. So usually this basically completes the triangle chain that we should advertise from this set, which is that you can use the new triple rare to draw a card, and then you arm a spear from your hand to draw a card, and then you use Samadhi to arm a spear from your drop to draw a card. So you draw 3 instantly from 2 counter blasts, and then you go through basically 2 orders, and that's about it. And then Bavsargra can then later just soul blast the order, and then you can do the whole thing all over again. So it is very, very strong, and also it helps you. It prevents you from breaking, because unlike Adala, which is the set 4 arm from drop card, it's not a grade 3, so it's a plus 5k shield, and it also is a backup booster because it's a grade 1, and also is that this can arm your Vanguard even if your Vanguard already has 2 arms. So let's say that you want to just quickly draw through a lot of cards, and you have another spear in drop, or you need to swap to the sword and you're already on the shield, and you have a sword in drop. Samadhi can just help you swap between whatever arms that you need to use at a specific time in order to help you get to your end game, which is very, very helpful, and it also helps you feel soul very quickly, because remember, Bavsargra needs to arm in order to soul charge, and this deck goes through soul very, very quickly, so the more arms that you can do every turn, the better. Or no, it's more like if you can arm every turn, it's better, because it's a once per turn soul charge. And finally, no 4PG, because it's 4 PGs. For grade 0s, the main star of the show, we have 1 copy of Ahinza, 4 copies of the AG Boy Trickmoon. And then we have 1 over trigger, Drop Video. And we have 8 crit, 4 heal, and 3 draw. So, it's very self-explanatory. 3 draw because we need to see a lot of pieces. I have seen some people say play France in this deck. France definitely can work. I've definitely tested France even with the set 7 build, but overall I think draws are still much more preferable, so that you don't have to rely on the triangle draw chain that from this set. And if you see, you see. If you don't see, you still have your draw triggers to fall back on. 8 crit because you want to win the game, and 4 heals because it's card fight Vanguard. The meat and potato of this is Trick Moon, and this is the original Dbt04 Trick Moon. It's not the RE rarity. So we have been playing this deck for quite a long time. But Trick Moon is the reason why Bavsargra is as threatening as it has been for the past 6 sets, which is when placed on rearguard circle, when placed on center back row rearguard circle, so haha Graham Grace, when placed on center back rearguard circle by card ability, counter charge 1. So haha Nirvana Jiva players, you can still call it. No, you actually can't call it from Jiva. If you play original Nirvana, you can technically call it, but why would you call it? I don't know. But yeah, so it's a counter charge, and this basically allows you to play your turn 3 double equip turn with only 1 CB, which is sometimes against decks like Jet, against decks like Messiah, against decks like Youthberg. You definitely do not want to be tanking like 2 damage, 3 damage before they even ride up to grade 3. You have to play very, very carefully. You have to play it very, very safe. And Trick Moon definitely gives you the flexibility to not take so much damage and still get your final outcome with your double equip. His second ability is on rearguard circle, dress boost. So this keyword never appeared again, but it's just a funny keyword. Because it's Trickstar, Trick Moon, you have to put the word dress somewhere. So dress boost, when it boosts a Vanguard, when it boosts a unit, for every 1 arms that is on your Vanguard, Trick Moon gains 10k. So for a total, you can get 20k because you can have maximum of 2 arms on your Vanguard circle. It means it's a 15k to 25k booster for any unit on your field. Which means that all the numbers that you saw, right, 20k, 13k, now they go up to 38k, 43k, which is very, very hard. Understandably, it's very, very hard for your opponent to get. And overall, is the reason why this deck is so threatening is just because of Trick Moon. And definitely try to mulligan for Trick Moon if you already have your arms in hand, because he will make killing your opponent that much faster in a 5k shield format. And that is all for this surprisingly long and extensive Bavsargra deck profile, because we have to explain all the abilities. Bavsargra as a deck has been a rogue deck ever since its inception, because it's still a 3-attack deck. It still has the limitations of being Dragon Empire, so it doesn't have that much card advantage. It doesn't have that much resource management. But what it has is pure power. If you want to kill your opponent as quickly and as inhumanely as humanly possible, Bavsargra is your #1 Dragon Empire that to do it. You know, screw your Aspera idea. You don't need to wait for any promos or any Dragonic Overlord shenanigans. You just go up, you Soul Blast 2, and you win. And you win immediately. So I can testify because I did bring this deck to WGP 2022. And the thing is, this deck still performs very well in a very difficult meta of set 7 plus Chrono Jet. Every single tournament, every single match was either Youth Bird or Chrono Jet or Gravidia, and this deck still performs very well because it's able to really make your opponents spread out their rear guards very quickly and then nuke them instantaneously, meaning that they set back their card advantage very fast. So if you need a deck that just has to kill your opponent quickly as well as also set back their card advantage, Bavsargra is a fantastic deck to do that with. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.